Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Amar and my team is Kong Eddie, Adam, Hafizi and Farhan. They are going to interview the owner and the CEO of the Shift Studio company. The owner name is Mr. Daniel and the CEO name is Mrs. Ashley, which is Mr. Daniel's wife. They are both from United States of America. They are going to do this interview for our assignment of CCM.
My name is Muhammad Gandhi, but you can call me Kai. This is Farhan and Adam. We're going to ask you a few questions about the culture of an organization in Malaysia. So, how long have you been in Malaysia? I mean, since you came here, and how long?
In July was 4 years.
4 years.
Yeah.
So when you first come here, what is the things that wow you, give you surprised about the culture here?
Yeah, I mean we had visited a few times before to see do we want to move here? I mean obviously he's Malaysian but he hadn't lived here since he was 15.
I left Malaysia when I was 15.
Oh,
so after PMR I went to the US. And I was there for 17, 18 years. So when I came back here, it was a long time.
Yeah.
Which part of the US?
It was in Texas.
Oh, Texas.
Yeah. So we visited. Yeah, it's surprising. I think it was really actually quite easy for me to adapt to the culture here. People are very friendly and warm, and yeah, I mean it's an easy place to live. You have all your conveniences still, and so it wasn't like a huge shock for me. I think moving, more is navigating the different cultures and seeing it's not always as harmonious as it likes to be portrayed, and learning how to interact with each separate culture and different little rules or different thing. Yeah, because how we noticed right away the difference in the races and the cultures of how we were welcomed. Like our whole neighborhood, we go around trying to meet the neighbors, invite, and the Chinese, even though he was Chinese, it was very hard to get in. They meet you at the gate and they're friendly, they're hi, but you stay outside. You never get invited inside. And the Indian and Malay houses come inside, have some tea, have this.
I think so. We live in the same neighborhood.
Before we
moved. I think in my street there's been wedding and funeral with Chinese people who were never invited. We don't know them.
But of course, all of our Malay and
Indian weddings.
We always went to everything, went to Raya, went to Iba Bali, went to whatever, where they bring us food. So I think that was more surprising to me. I didn't expect, such differences. And I thought, because he's Chinese, of course, maybe we would be kind of more accepted, but we weren't really. It was more, I think, a lot more. I mean, everyone was friendly,
nice,
but
the cultures a little bit different.
So,
you guys work together?
Yeah, I mean, mostly I help him sew, and then mostly housewife. We have 3 little children.
Your profession?
Before that.
So one business that we have is a co-working space or a business center. So she designed all the stuff inside. So she designed and we hire a contractor to put the floor and all the design.
Interior designer?
Yeah, she did all the interior design. I think she also painted some of the walls. All of the walls. And all the walls. And then that's the co-working business. On my software IT business, she works as a consultant to the social media team. So she would prepare some organized posts for them and then they would be the one executing the plan. She would be the one coming up with the social media plan, and they execute the plan. Yeah. But that's not a.
It's like a few hours.
She's so good she could do a few hours a day. It's enough work for them to do the whole week.
Do you guys have like any international assignment?
So for the software media business, we work quite extensively in the region. So before MCO, I work a lot in Indonesia. And so my team works with the NGO in Indonesia. We do websites, we do software for them, and then we also have clients in South Korea doing the same thing. We're doing websites for them, and then just started third client in Myanmar, so doing similar stuff. And we carry a brand from the US, so we got almost like a franchise license from them. So we don't do much with the US market, but we're using the brand locally.
So how's the environment here different from the US? The working environment.
Working environment. I would speak because I work more regionally, like in Indonesia, here, and working with our contacts in Myanmar, something like that. I think generally in this Asian context, people work hard. In the US, they are more keep to their time. They're like, hey, I'm going to work from 8 to 5 and more than 8 to 5. I mean, it's probably generation difference. Like most of the guys that work for us, they're just finished university or college. Or they're in their 20s. And so sometimes they come in later, like 9:30, and then they buy, and then they work till 7, you know. But it's not like they're not hardworking; they're hardworking. They just work a little bit late.
Less punctual.
They're less punctual. Compared to the US, they have this set time, and it's good and bad because we have to teach. I have to, in working with some of the clients, I have to be firm with them because they say, hey, why can't you just fix that right now? I said, it's 8 p.m. I said, you don't work 8 p.m. in your country, right? You know? And so unless it's something like, how do you say, like really, really critical, then I'll pull my team on a Saturday morning or Saturday night to do something. But so it's a learning culture because different country has different working culture. How can we all understand each other and still get the work done?
I think another big difference is the communication style.
Yes.
Like they're very, because most of our staff locally are East Malaysians, and they're very indirect and won't, especially like coming to us as the boss, or like if we're coming, like if they're running our business, so they won't like tell us when there's a problem, or they'll like come around, like they'll tell their friend who's a little closer to tell us, and we're like, please tell us if it's an issue. Like we would so much rather you just talk directly. Like we're not mean, we're not, you know, you're not. It's not like they're in trouble. It's just even could be like, my computer's broken, but they won't tell me your computer's broken. They'll tell their friend to tell me, or you know, things like that. There's an issue with our office, like our office manager, instead of like just telling us. Sometimes we don't know or things. So I think the communication style.
I think that is a piece of difference that we see. I think it depends on education background. Some of our employees are very confident. So when they're confident, they're able to approach us with any questions. Some of them are not very confident, and so they could talk to their friend and their friend. And so so we have two for the software business. We have two offices, one here and one in Kuching. The Kuching guys doesn't have problem talking to us. So for some reason, so the Kuching guys don't.
Because they're Chinese.
So the Kuching guys doesn't have any problem talking to us. Our Penang office, there's usually one or two guys that been with us the longest. One with two guys out of UITM that we took them as interns, and you know, They roast the ranks, and they're the one that usually like everybody talk to them, and then they'll talk to us. I say, oh, that's okay, and it's just different communication style.
I think, and being a multicultural, society here, we're seeing such differences. Like we notice a difference between our employees from Sabah and our employees from Sarawak, even though they're East Malaysian, or our Chinese or our Iban or our Usun, those differences we can tell a big difference. That so learning how to navigate and work with each of them definitely provides some challenges, but it's good. It's nice to have the diversity. I think that's something that we really value in our life is just diversity. We don't want to live in one culture. That's why we like Malaysia, because it is multicultural.
It's not that different. I mean, like when I was working in the US, you have to learn to work through the cultures too. I remember one of my team with a multinational company, it was, we have Americans, we have Vietnamese, I'm in there, and then you have Indians, and so it's just like everybody has a different style, different way of communicate, and so I just remember my boss, he has to manage all that. Because sometimes like maybe one people would just like talk down to somebody else, or they would just like make this one person do a lot of work. But it's like, no, you cannot do that. Everybody needs to share the work. So like the boss is actually very important, the manager, to manage the workload and then manage the culture.
Leadership, right? The leadership, right?
The leadership, yeah. So the leadership of the manager is actually very important, especially in a diverse team.
So what is the main thing you have learned in the first 6 months in Malaysia?
The what?
The first 6 months in Malaysia.
How you adapt the culture?
Yeah, it's been a while. Yeah, I think for me the first 6 months was quite easy. It was okay. Like it was just, you learn how to do all the basics. You have to learn how to shop, how to go here, where to do things, how to pay your bills, and then I was learning some language stuff too at that point. I think for him, the first 6 months were harder coming back, as even though he's Malaysian, he feels like he should be home, he should know, but he hasn't been there for his entire adult life. So it was like reverse culture shock.
Reverse culture shock for me. So, I think for me the first 6 months was harder. At that time I don't have a team, I don't have a company. I was one person working on a contract with a company in US. So I built software for a company in US. It's a point of sale system, touchscreen. And so at that point, when we decided to move back, I told those guys, hey, I designed this for you, I can work, I don't have to be here to do this, I can work from Malaysia. I said, okay, so I took that job, I just worked remotely from here. But it's flip hours, so all my meetings are like 10:30 at night. Because it's like 9 in the morning for them. So I had to flip hours. So that was an adjustment for me, just dealing the international workload. But just
learning to drive.
Learning to drive.
Was a big adjustment.
Drive on the other side.
Drove on the
US is driving.
It's like you're on the other side of the car.
Yeah, I almost did so many things because it's not adjusting to the side. It's adjusting to how wide your car is. Because you always estimate this way, and now you have to estimate this way.
And I would always get in on the wrong side. Like if I was going to drive, I would like get in the passenger side because in the US,
get the wrong side.
I would like get in the car, but
wrong side of the door. Yeah.
Just silly things like that that you have to adjust. I think another big thing was figuring out, like for me, was like, what food can I cook here? Like, because the ingredients aren't all the same. What can I find here that I know how to make? Because I don't know how to make a lot of Asian food. I know Western food, or maybe this thing is really expensive here that it wasn't in the US. I have to change. Like, we can't eat that all the time. Like, good beef here is expensive. I'm like, in Texas, it's like so cheap. You're like, there's cows everywhere. So, I think like those little things of life, like they kind of, it's like
everything that you're doing, you have to learn how to do a new way in those first 6 months.
So you said that you've been here for 4 years, right? So how do you think Malaysians see you?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, you're always the foreigner. You're never gonna.
Yeah.
I think the weird thing living here on the mainland is like there's not many white women. You'll see men for the Air Force Base
Yeah.
or business before NCO. You'd see people coming in and like there's some way, but like there's just not many women. So I know that people see me and they know me, but I don't know them. So I've had people come up to me and be like, "Oh, you live here and this," and I'm like, "I've never seen you before."
Yeah.
I don't talk to you, so it's always that awareness that like I stick out, and you know, my daughter, our kid, they go to local schools, and so I'm the only foreign here in that
You notice? How old is she?
She is about to be 8 now, so she's standard 2.
No, she's in SK.
She's in Chinese school, but
Wow,
it's
AJC.
yeah,
Wow.
AJC.
Interesting.
And then our son is in kindergarten. He's about to be 5, and then we have a 1-year-old asleep upstairs. So yeah, so I think there's just, I mean, you're always aware. People are watching, staring,
difference,
things, curious. I mean, not in a bad way, like, or maybe they always will recognize me because I stick out, but I don't necessarily.
Sometimes they are over friendly, is it?
Yeah, I really think most people are really friendly. I get a lot of questions. Just I go to the store and they're like, "Where do you live? What kind of house do you have? What job do you have? Where do your kids go to school? What do you know?" And it doesn't bother me because I know people are just being
curious.
friendly. They're curious. So I mean, it's better than I guess no one talking to you. So.
So how about you? As a Malaysian, living abroad, how do you see other Malaysians see you?
Coming
Malaysian,
back.
yeah, coming back.
If I don't speak English, they don't know.
Yeah.
If I speak Bahasa or Chinese, they wouldn't know I'm from overseas. If I speak English, they say, "Hey, your English is different." And so they'll ask me where I used to live.
Or if they see us.
Yeah, but they see us together.
I think there's some people that still see you as a foreigner, even though
Yeah,
it's
maybe.
not. But
But I think, yeah. I mean, it's changed. I think probably I was more foreign when I first came back, like 4 years ago. Now I'm more local.
in your language, it's improved a lot.
Yeah, my language.
Because I mean, like when he came back, he hadn't spoke VM since like 15, and then now it's really pretty good, you know. So it's like
Yeah.
it's changed a lot. So now he's kind of speaking a lot.
Do you like working and living in Malaysia? Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I do, and so one thing to add besides living there, here and is besides that, I think Malaysia we have really good talent. Like on my team that I work with, they are really talented people, talented with skills. I had a new project this year with Indonesia. I have one of the guys, and he's been out of UITM for maybe 3 years. It's a brand new language that he doesn't know, the computer language. And this is we started this one maybe 1 or 2 months into MCO. Like he would basically spend his weekends learning this new programming language. And then, 2 months later, he's now fluent in this language. And so I just see his dedication. He has the skill set, but he's not prideful. Like, oh, I don't want to learn this. It's too much time. He actually put in time, and he didn't tell me because I said, "Hey, clock your time," And then he said, "Oh yeah, all the time that I spent at home, I didn't clock them. I was just learning it by myself." And so that was to me like, people with skills, but it's not just skills. We are dedicated. And so when I showcase their work, whether we're working in Indonesia, South Korea, and Myanmar, and even to the companies in the US, like I'm proud of their work because they're not second par or secondary. Like when we were working with counterparts in US, like I will make sure that you don't look down on us because our work is as good as yours. And it is true. And I've seen their code, and I've seen other people's code. I can compare code. So like your code is not necessarily better than our code. So I think so I do enjoy working here with Malaysians and the talent we have here.
I think also like for family, I think provides a really good environment for making family. Like you couldn't have this standard of life like in the US, and like for our kids, like they're getting to really experience different cultures, and we get to travel around the region. They got to go to so many countries because it is cheap to go to Asia or whatever. You know, we would never get to do that if we lived in America. Like the cost of living is so high there.
Yeah.
We're here. I mean, like we would never have a house this big ever. Like we would have a tiny house, or he would have, now because he's able to like own the business and have more flexibility where he could work from home if he needed, or do something for the family. And so I think it provides like a lot of opportunities as a family to spend more time together and to do things that we would never get to do if we were in the US, and the cost of living is much nicer. I mean, it's like almost like a fourth of everything, and so just being able to provide different opportunities that we wouldn't have. And like the schooling, we have great experiences pretty much. I mean, we had to overcome some cultural differences in school, but Malaysia has good schools, we have good medical care, we've had, our daughter was born here, we've had things, we've had great, our youngest was born here, she was born here. So we've had all around just like really great experience being here. So it's like, to us right now, it's like we can't imagine of course we go back to visit, but like going back to live, it's like
most of it you like Malaysia.
most days.
Most days.
Anywhere. There's always some days. I mean, there are days where you get tired of being recorded or whatever. You're like, or some days you just want to stay in your house. But most days, and of course, like with COVID and stuff, definitely we're thankful to be here, and we'll stay forever for sure.
Right, I think that's all for our interview.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay.